To yourbostonsports.com. I'm Rob Goodwin along with my co-host John Korn.
Good evening, everybody.
We're kind of breaking ground tonight. First time streaming live on Ustream. Welcome to all of our viewers. Glad to have you. And we have good news so far today. Red Sox won 9-4, but they're in a tough spot. It's been obviously a huge disappointment how the season has gone so far. And Korn, there are a lot of prognosticators out there that have come up with various reasons. Can you put your finger on what has gone so terribly wrong with this team?
Well, the main thing is the starting pitching is terrible. You start with starting pitching. That's where it starts.
Right.
And there's a bunch of other stuff when they're not hitting like they can.
But how does starting pitching that is poor turn into a team that can't field, that's throwing the ball away, that can't get any timely hits, that doesn't move the runner over? They seem to be doing a lot of fundamental things wrong. Yeah,
it just one thing perpetuates another one. I don't know how that works.
Did they count too much on on Ortiz and Napoli to come through and be the heart of the order, which they obviously are not right now?
I think they thought they were going to have okay pitching. They got a bunch of what you might call number 3 starters,
But we kind of knew that.
And they figured that if you score a lot of runs, these guys will win.
Right.
If you score 5 runs a game, a guy like Kelly can win.
Well, and they were willing to, for example, to your point, they were willing to overlook the defensive liability, which he is a liability of Hanley Ramirez, in the hopes that, okay, he wasn't going to hit 10 home runs per month like he did in April. But, they figure he'd average, 25 to 30 and, drive-in runs, be productive. And it's kind of not worked out that way.
I think Hanley Ramirez is going to work out for it. I think they overdid it with Sandoval. I really do. I don't think they needed him. I think they could put Hanley Ramirez at third base, and when Poppy retires, Hanley Ramirez is their DH. I don't think they ever needed Sandoval.
I wonder how Hanley Ramirez would do at third base. I mean, he said...
Well, he can't play shortstop.
He said recently there's no way he's going to the infield.
Yeah, well, he sucks in the outfield. He's terrible in the outfield.
Well, he's lazy.
Yeah,
I think he's lazy.
But he's a hitter. He's probably a DH. He'd probably be a good DH.
And what about the people that say that this team doesn't know the Red Sox way? In other words, they don't move runners on. Don't move runners from move runners over. They don't do a lot of sac flies. They're not willing to give up the out. Doesn't that come from the manager as far as leadership?
Yeah. And we saw something very disturbing the other night when Wade Miley had a meltdown right in front of Farrell,
right?
Because he was going to pull him out because he stunk anyway.
Well, he did pull him out, and he did stink on that particular night.
And right in front of the cameras, he embarrassed his teammates, and none of his teammates said a word.
Right.
Ortiz said something he alluded to something like, "I'm not the manager."
Mm-hmm.
I remember about 3 years ago, Bobby Valentine, when he was pulling his shenanigans, Pedroia says something of the effect of, "We don't do that around here." Mm-hmm. I didn't hear him say that when Miley was screaming at his manager.
Right,
we don't do that around here. So it looks like maybe Farrell's lost control of the team.
Well, Pedroia may have done that in private. You don't know. And a lot of people gave Farrell a hard time when he didn't come out and say that what Miley did was unacceptable on that particular night. But he did come out and say the next day, and people said, "Oh, he should have said it right then and there." And my feeling is if he said it privately to Miley first, that's okay.
I don't think it matters what Farrell said after Miley and him had a meltdown.
A lot of people have issues with
that. A lot of people want to make a story out of every single tiny thing they say. The fact that a mediocre pitcher, he's been a stiff all year. Mm-hmm. He's having a lousy game. He's given up 5 innings and 4. He's given up 5 runs in 4 innings. The manager's going to pull him, and the fact that he had a meltdown in front of his teammates like that means that maybe the manager doesn't have control of the team.
Right.
He might,
that could be a sign.
That could be a sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now maybe they took care of it. Maybe it woke them up a little bit.
Yeah,
maybe the other players aren't acting like that. No, maybe. I don't know.
But Miley did have some good starts in a row, actually.
If you asked a player like Remy, a former major leaguer, he would probably tell you that stuff like that happens all the time behind closed doors.
Right.
The fact that he did it in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Exactly.
So.
And how much do you put the blame on Ben Cherington for kind of the architect of this team for the most part, spending a lot of money with Hanley Ramirez, and bringing in like Miley and bringing in Porcello and bringing in Sandoval. That's a lot of money tied up there. I mean, how much do you blame him?
I think he might have overdone it with Sandoval. I know you like Sandoval.
I don't think he's. Look, when we met him,
they might have used that money to get a. They might have gotten another starter. I don't know who. I really don't. Maybe they could have made more of an effort to keep Lester way back when, but I don't see where. I think I'm glad they have him. He's a lazy baseball player. Mm-hmm. I don't like him, but I think he's going to hit another 100. I think he's going to hit 100 home runs for that team in the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, and the thing is, Sandoval, I made the mistake of when we met him at the Winter Weekend, I said, "You're Big Papi too." Well, he's not. But I think he's capable of being a good supporting player, and he certainly has a history of being clutch in the playoffs.
I don't see what he's doing Brock Holt can't do. I don't.
Well, I think Holt has a little less power, but I think Holt's strength is playing everywhere. Playing everywhere. But you got to wonder what are Farrell and Cherington doing together right now? What are they thinking? What are they talking about? And is Cherington talking to Farrell at all? I kind of wonder, because that would kind of give you an idea. We there's no way for us to know. That would give us an idea if Farrell is indeed, if his job's in jeopardy at this point or not. Would you say it is?
I say Farrell's is. I don't think Cherington's is. I think the Red Sox front office is doing everything right. Mm-hmm. I think if we really look at the situation in the long term, what we'll see is about 8, 7 years ago, they had a slew of guys that came up from the minor league system: Papelbon, Lester, Ellsbury, Pedroia. Mm-hmm. One after another, and all these guys turn out to be stars.
Right.
But the same thing is happening now. They're bringing up and they're just not except for Bogarts and maybe Swinehart.
And Betts shows some flashes, obviously. No question.
But they're just not. They don't have that star caliber player of those guys. But it's not because they don't have a good minor league side. Mm-hmm. They're going about it correctly.
Right.
Okay. Back in 2006, okay, they're bringing up these guys and they're signing Josh Beckett. Okay. Mm-hmm. They have a couple of free agents. Okay.
They got Mike Lowell.
Mm-hmm. They're doing the same thing now. Okay. They're bringing up the young guys, mm-hmm. and they're going out and getting a couple. Hanley Ramirez and the Panda there. And it just isn't working. You can't. You got to be a little lucky. Mm-hmm. You can't have a bunch of all-stars come up like they did 8 years ago.
Sure.
If they keep doing that, maybe they will. Maybe the next wave of guys will. And I think Bogarts and Betts are going to turn into all-stars.
Now, what about the folks that say
maybe we're not being patient enough with the team?
But patience is one thing, but last place is another. I think that
was profound.
I think all fans will agree with that. What about the idea that, and I heard this tonight, that what they're missing is a guy like Shane Victorino, or what they are missing is Shane Victorino because of his ability to turn a game around, move a runner over, make a game-saving catch, make a game-saving throw, assist, hit an occasional home run. If they had him, would this be that different than it is now? I mean, a lot of people think it would be.
No, they're going through a bad spot right now. But I think they're. You mentioned Cherington, the general manager. His overall philosophy is good. They've been doing this for 10 years. Mm-hmm. They've been relying on their prospects, and a free agent here or there, and they're not doing anything differently as far as that as they were 10 years ago. It just isn't working right now.
Right.
Maybe a year from now they're going to pick up another free agent. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're going to somebody else is going to come. They got what's his name there? They got that lefty that came up, Rodriguez.
Yep, Eduardo Rodriguez.
Erod.
Yeah.
He could be another Roger Clemens.
He could be. But I think it's important not to put too many expectations on him right now. He's had 2 great starts out of 3.
I'm just saying what the way they're going about it is correct. It just isn't working out right now.
My fear, to be honest with you, is that they will end up like the Mets were for a long time. Signing players, having good players, but you can't put it together. I mean, they were in last place last year. They're in last place now. They last place finished in 2012. That's too much last place for me and for a lot of fans to take. No matter whether or not they're going about it the right way, the results on the whole are last place.
But the only sure way to do it is your main focus is to be have good prospects. That's the only sure way to do it. You can't go around signing free agents, 35-year-old free agents. That's too much patchwork.
Sure.
So I don't know. I don't know if I don't think you blame Cherington. Maybe you can blame the scouting reports.
Sure.
Maybe you can blame Farrell. Maybe you can blame the hitting coach. But Cherington's basic philosophy of relying mostly on free agents, I think that's the only way to go.
Yep. And we could not have foretold that Ortiz would be hitting 220. And
he's coming out of it though. He seems to be coming up.
But the ones that are hitting right now are Bogaerts. I mean, he's hitting 300. Good for him. I mean,
and Pedroia.
I don't know if he's exceeded your expectations, especially defensively, but he's more than adequate. Pedroia is tearing the cover off the ball exactly 3 days after Tony Massarotti said, his career's on the downswing. Maybe need to look elsewhere for second base.
Like anyone listens to Tony Massarotti.
Well, Pedroia listened or something because Tony the day after since 3 days prior or 3 days after Tony Massarotti said that, Pedroia's been on fire. No one's questioning him.
Him and Felger. Oh my God.
You like those guys? He's shaking his head.
Wow.
Yeah. And I haven't had the occasion to listen to a whole lot of talk radio in Boston, so I guess I'm not as jaded or influenced by them. But I do catch Felger and Maz every once in a while, at least on tape delay, of course. So do they stay the course? Are they going to be sellers at the deadline? I mean, the deadline is over a month. About a month away. You're going to be sellers? I kind of don't think they're going to be sellers. I think they're going to be, play the lineup for the future, And one other thing that I thought of earlier today was, and it was mentioned it was mentioned during the radio coverage of the game today with Rob Bradford, and that was that, if they had Vasquez, for example, good young player with a great attitude, if they had him playing, that would be different. And, not that he could inject a whole lot of leadership, but just a different dimension to the team. They got
the best minor league system in the major leagues. And
a lot of fans are saying,
I think they're gonna, and they got a lot of money too. I think they're gonna. It may not be this year. It doesn't look like it's going to be, but I think the front office is doing what they can. The problem is the players. Sometimes players don't play as well as you think they're gonna.
But
sometimes managers make stupid mistakes. Sometimes things just don't go right, and for some reason, the first half of this year went horrible for them. Maybe they're gonna snap out of it, and they're not gonna win the division or anything. I don't think they're gonna be in the playoffs. But maybe next year we'll have a team.
But if not next year, then when? I mean, they can't. It's been last place.
Yeah,
I know I keep saying it, but those are the results. Those are the results, folks.
The only thing they didn't do this year that really surprised me was the Red Sox have always had a frontline pitcher. It's funny. There's a myth about the Red Sox. They never have good pitching. They always have good pitching. They've always had. I mean, all the way back to Clemens and Hurst.
Yeah.
Later on, you had Schilling and Pedro. After that, you had Beckett and Lester.
Right. By the way, you know what Lester's ERA is?
No.
In the National League, 3.99. 4 and 5, 3.99. 9 home runs. Not great. You wonder how he'd be doing in the American League.
I don't know.
That would be interesting to kind of see how he would be doing if he was still with the Red Sox.
What?
And apparently the Phillies are looking to possibly trade Papelbon, but again, do you trade for for someone at the deadline and take on salary.
You know,
depending on where you are in the standings, of course.
You go after starters. That's where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's where you go after good start. They maybe Porcello's better than we think he is.
Mm-hmm. You know, they signed him to
a big deal.
Right.
Maybe he's going to pan out. Kelly.
Yeah. But you have to admit, I mean, Porcello doesn't look to be a number one at this point. And if what he's done so far this year is a measure, he's not going to be your number one next year either. So that might kind of be mean they will go shopping.
Curt Schilling was not anything until he was in his late 20s. And Bruce Hurst was terrible. He almost got put back down in the minor leagues many times.
I remember him sitting in the stands at Fenway being interviewed, just saying, "I stink." Yeah. I do remember. I remember those times.
And he became the best. It was only for a couple of years, but he was probably the best lefty in baseball.
Yep.
Back in the late '80s.
Sure.
So pitching's a funny thing. You never know.
Well, and Breslow certainly caught stride relatively late in his career. I mean, I know he's only in his 30s. Yeah, he was always someone that could get guys out with Baltimore, that's for sure. But little do we know he'd end up being the closer like this.
Yeah.
Which is, you could never figure that one out.
Funny sport, isn't it?
It is. And so I guess talk a little bit about some of the milestones of A-Rod.
Oh, man.
Does that make you feel?
Makes me sick.
Does that make you feel that
he passed Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig in RBIs? That makes me sick.
It doesn't make you think that maybe he does deserve a little more accolades, even despite his behavior.
Let me
put it this way: do you give him any more credit based on that?
Yeah, I think. This is just my personal feeling through this big steroid thing. I think the real good ones like Manny Ramirez, A-Rod, Clemens would have been just as good if they didn't take anything. Mm-hmm. That's the tragedy of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But just the way this guy's conducted himself.
No question.
It's like it's hard to respect him,
Oh, I understand exactly.
But yeah, you got to give him kudos. I mean, 3,000 hits.
Look how old he is coming
Hank
back
Aaron
from injuries.
Is the only player in history with more RBIs.
Wow,
it's incredible.
It is incredible.
Yeah.
It is incredible. And Teixeira, got to talk about the Yankees a little bit more. Teixeira has been unbelievable. He's at least 16 home runs, if not more, as of today.
Yeah.
That's quite a comeback, and hats off to him. Look, you have to think, I was talking to a friend who was a Yankee fan. He figured Yankees would be fourth place. Thrilled to death they're leading first or tied for first right now, close to it. And, they're lucky because the division is terrible.
And, the thing is with this steroid era and all the way these guys handle themselves and the way, Clemens handled himself in front of the press and everything. But, I mean, are these guys any more jerks than, say, Ty Cobb was 75 years ago?
Probably not.
I mean, you can't really. It's a different era, different things, different personalities.
Well, and you think about back then. I mean, the managers were even worse.
Yeah,
the managers were downright mean.
Yeah,
they scared me. They were so mean.
even 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
When I read Yaz's biography, it was about 2 weeks before the season ended. He went into the manager's office. He says, "I got to rest my shoulder. I won't be able to play in the playoffs." He goes, "You're in the lineup today." The best player on the team. The most revered player on the team. He couldn't talk the manager into taking him out.
Even Hurd, he was better than anybody else on the
bench. I can't pitch today. Well, you're pitching. Figure it out. They went from one extreme to the other. Now they got a hangnail and are out for 2 weeks.
Well, Nava's got a thumb injury.
I love their rehabs, don't you? So-and-so threw a tennis ball for 20 minutes on the sidelines. He's scheduled to do it again 6 days from now.
I don't know if you heard how Nava got on the DL. If anybody caught my 2-minute test show on Ustream, the Red Sox were tested for PEDs, I think, about 2 weeks ago. And they stuck Nava's thumb with a pin so they get a little blood out, The pin stuck in too far, put him on the DL. So
well, that's what you call a phantom injury.
Well, seriously, you got to be careful with sharp objects.
Yeah,
Now I did that.
He could be out for weeks.
I did a health fair at work, and they swabbed the inside of my cheek. I almost swallowed the swab. Almost choked to death.
Sharp objects.
I almost choked to death.
Yeah.
You know what they were swabbing for?
No.
I want to see if I smoke.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what they would do? Increase my insurance premiums.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Almost swallowed the swab. I'm telling you, they had to.
That's awfully judgmental of them.
They had to put me on like a board and then reach in with tongs to pull that thing out.
Really?
Yeah,
you swallowed a swab.
Yeah. So I mean, anything can happen. You got to be careful with sharp objects. Long wooden sticks.
I mean, what if he was flossing and he knocked one of his teeth out or something? Or
you could bleed to death. You could bleed to death doing that thing.
Your gums can start bleeding while you're flossing. All kinds of terrible things can happen.
I'm telling you, but
you got to be careful.
So did you say someone threw a tennis ball for a week or once and then?
Well, yeah, some of these pictures are where they rehab. It's just.
I heard
he's on the DL for 35 days because he has tightness in his left, bicep.
I heard for knee injuries they're going to start playing kickball as rehab. Oh, by the way, speaking of the injury, Pedroia does have soreness in his knee. That's why I didn't play today. Yeah, they're going to kickball. They're going to start with the small balls first. See if they can kick it about 10 feet, and then they'll kick the larger balls. As they get stronger.
They're going to play pool. So you got to bend over and hit the ball. So see if they can bend over.
You could hurt your back that way.
Well, they got to see if the second baseman can bend over and scoop up a baseball.
The infield drills.
So the infield drill. So just to break them in slowly, you bend over and you shoot some pool. You kind of get your back used to.
Gotcha.
So they got to be careful because they got to be careful with these guys.
I know.
Just like sharp objects, anything can happen.
That's right.
All
right, so now I'm going to put my microphone down.
These men are very delicate.
I'm going to put my microphone down. I hope I don't make any noise doing that. And I'm going to let you talk about the All-Star game. Ready? Go.
The All-Star game. What do you think of the All-Star game?
All right, it's all Kansas City Royals. The fans have gone crazy. They've all voted. Millions of them have voted the allowed 35 times. So I think you've got 7 Kansas City Royals starting the All-Star game, plus the manager is Ned Yost, manager of the Royals. And if he picks a Kansas City Royal to start that game as a starting assignment on the mound, there's going to be a mutiny.
What have I been telling you about the All-Star game for years now?
That's why I want to put the microphone down, because maybe there are new listeners live on Ustream that haven't heard.
I have been telling Mr. Gordon here for years now that the All-Star game is stupid. It's a meaningless game. There's nothing wrong with it. If a bunch of major league players want to get together, get the best guys together, best guys in the National League play the best guys in the American League. That's a nice idea, but it's a meaningless game. It should be meaningless. If I was an owner and I had a $20 million player playing, I wouldn't want that. I'd be afraid he'd get injured or something like that in a meaningless game. And now what they did, what was it, about 4 years ago? They gave meaning to it. Whoever wins the All-Star game, that league has home field advantage in the World Series, which that should not be.
So
the fact that there's 7 Kansas City Royals starting because there's stuff in the ballot boxes just kind of proves my point how stupid this whole thing is.
I think they're all over clicking. What
are you doing?
You vote online now. There's no paper. I don't think there's any paper at the ballpark anymore.
Well, when I say stuff in a ballot box, that's an expression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people getting carpal tunnel clicking 35 times.
Like when I say the sun is setting, we know the sun doesn't really set. It's stationary, and the Earth is moving on its axis. So the sun's not really setting. It's a metaphor.
Oh, okay. All right. So now we have a fiasco with the voting. All the Royals fans, which I give them credit for actually going and wasting their time doing that. But how should players be chosen for this meaningless game? Do you have the players vote for who should be in the All-Star game and some fan balloting and some input by them? What do you do?
If they have the rule, if they keep the rule the way they have it, which is the winning, if the National League wins, that means the National League champion has home field advantage in the World Series. If they do it that way, then the National League champion should pick the All-Star game. In other words, The San Francisco Giants won last year.
Right.
The manager of the Giants gets to pick the starting team of the if that's how they want to do it, they want to make it so that the winner has home field advantage in the World Series. We'll do it. Do it that way then.
Yeah, but
you don't have the fans vote 35 times.
The problem is the manager, for example, the American League Championship was won by the Royals last year. So Ned Yost is the manager this year.
Let him pick it.
So okay.
Yeah, let him pick it.
I'm not so sure about that.
Or
my thought is there's got to be some combination of fan balloting, but certainly we need to avoid what's happening this year. And of course that's happened in the past, although not to this extent. Look, there are more Yankee fans in New York than there are Royals fans anywhere. So, that kind of skews the numbers of who's voting. But I think part of it, and I don't think they do it yet. Well, actually, I think for the starting lineup is the fans, but the reserves is picked by, I think, a combination of maybe players voting and the manager.
I like the fact that the Royals fans are voting like that, and they're overdoing it because that shows how enthusiastic they are. The Kansas City Royals got in the World Series for the first time in how many years? What they need to do is go back to making it a meaningless game.
Okay.
It used to be the World Series was in the American League every other year and in the National League every other year.
Yep.
Okay?
Right.
The All-Star game had no bearing on any real games that meant anything.
Sure.
They need to go back to that. Let it be a meaningless game. Do it any way they want to do it. If they want to have, everybody's kid vote. Okay, from now on, everybody's all the players' kids are going to however they want to do it. It shouldn't have any meaning on the regular season or the postseason.
But I think the reason why they did that is because the players weren't taking it seriously enough.
Why should they take it serious enough?
Well,
a guy's got 3 days off and he has to fly out to Cincinnati this year.
They love it. They love going for the most part, unless they've been they've gone a bazillion times. It's still something they love to do. They want to get chosen for the team. Even if they don't play, if they don't pitch, they want to be chosen for the team. And that's my thought.
All-star games are always dumb. Actually, I'll admit that the baseball ones are better than the NBA or the.
Well, like hockey, where they I don't know if they still do this. They would pick like a pickup game. They'd have all the all-stars line up, 2 captains, and they'd pick one, 2. The short kid never got picked, and he wins the MVP. I think the NFL would do well to get rid of the Pro Bowl altogether. Yeah. That's for sure.
I don't think an All-Star game should have any impact on the postseason or the regular season.
All right.
I don't think that's right.
Fair enough.
That's the problem I have with it.
Any last words about the Red Sox?
No.
We're going to be going.
What's going on with the Cardinals? You hear what happened?
Oh, I forgot to mention that. Yes.
Somebody in the front office is being accused of hacking into the
Astros.
Into the Astros.
A former employee of the Astros.
Computer system or something. Looking at their.
This is terrible. First, North Korea hacks Sony Pictures. Then China hacks all the government employees, top to bottom, and now St. Louis Cardinals. What is the world coming to when it comes to technology?
And in between that, we had Deflategate. I'm just devastated.
And on top of it, the Congress was dragging their feet funding the NSA. I mean, come on! What is the world coming to now? The St. Louis Cardinals on Cardinals on par with China and North Korea when it comes to hacking.
The IRS were targeting people that weren't voting for that were supporting the Tea Party and stuff like that.
But this hacking is a technology thing. Well, who else would you think are in the same breath? North Korea, China, and the St. Louis Cardinals. Who would ever think that? I don't know what this world's coming to. What's next? The garbage coming down the street? I don't know.
Oh, my gosh.
July 12th to see him play the Yankees. Are they going to be 500 by then or close to it, or should we just say wave the white flag now?
We're probably looking at a 500 team at the end of the year. And
what about July 12th?
Oh, no.
No.
They'd have to win 30 out of the next 40 games to get back in it. I don't think they're good enough to do that. I mean, it's happened before.
Anything's possible. Of course, their record within this lousy division is terrible, and I think they're maybe even when it comes to games outside the division. And they just won today, obviously. Brock Holt, you told me. I didn't realize this hit for the cycle today.
Hit for the cycle today, yep.
Last hit was a triple.
Yep.
It's pretty unlikely.
Yep.
And I guess it's a home-and-home series. So they're going right to Atlanta, I think, for two
games at Fenway, 2 games in Atlanta.
When do you ever see a home-and-home? That's pretty cool.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. All right, so you're going to say end of the year 500 by July 12th? No way. No way they'll be 500.
How many games is that?
Figure it's
only
20-something, 25, 26, 25, 26.
Oh, they'd have to win 20 of the next 26 games to be 500 by then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, anything can happen, but I'm still looking forward to seeing them play the Yankees. That should be fun.
Yankees did it in 1978.
Yeah.
14 games behind the Red Sox. Mm-hmm. They were in 3rd place in August, and they won the division.
Yep, that's right.
But we don't care anymore. We've won 3 World Championships since then.
Curse is broken. If there ever was a curse. All right. So for all of our viewers and listeners, but mostly viewers, we are live on Ustream tonight for the first time. I'm sitting here producing and talking, and you saw some of the pictures we put up, like John Farrell.
He looks very sad right there.
He does look. That's why I picked the picture. That's why I picked that one. And then Ben and John going.
Ben looks very angry. Ben looks very angry at John.
And then Ben kind of explaining what the heck's going on. So we'll do more of this in the future. We hope you like it. We'll also you may be watching this on YouTube as well. It'll be up on YouTube, and we can bring in guests via Skype. So we were looking for actually a guest tonight, but didn't have any takers. So if you want to be a guest on the show via Skype, just drop us a note on Facebook or Twitter or email, and we'll link you up with the show.
That was funny. China and the St. Louis Cardinals.
North Korea, and the St. Louis Cardinals. Hacking.
Exactly. Terrible.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Appreciate it, John Corn. Thanks for joining me in the Central Connecticut studios.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.